punished for overperforming, so I did the bare minimum before leaving. I worked remotely for an auto parts company for almost 4 years. Everything was going smoothly. The company was a global giant, famous for sourcing impossible-to-find car parts, from Model T Fords to modern muscle cars. The chaos started when a genius on the management team decided to buy a brand new sales and inventory software. It was an absolute disaster. One program would claim we had 10 pieces of an item, inventory would say we had 0, and accounting would show a vendor was due payment while another system denied it. By the time the manager responsible for this mess left with a hefty severance package, the damage was done. We started hemorrhaging clients and vendors. As a case manager, my daily routine consisted of catching heat from furious customers and repeating the useless corporate lines I was forced to give. The turnover rate skyrocketed, and the company almost went bankrupt. Enter Big Auto Parts, BAP. They bought us out, paid off the vendors, repaired broken relationships, and in the process laid off 60% of the staff in my town. Sad, but that's business. About 6 months after the merger, I was promoted to Customer Operations Specialist. I no longer took inbound calls. Instead, I made outbound calls to resolve high-level issues. I shared the department with a girl named Lucy. I would research the supplier issues, and she would call the customer to offer a solution. 3 weeks in, Lucy decided the job wasn't for her and quit. Since I was already comfortable talking to customers, I was asked to do double duty. It worked out beautifully because I knew the back-end issues inside out. I could offer much better solutions on the phone. My supervisor noticed, put me in for a small raise, and I started making great money doing something I genuinely enjoyed. The company grew, and with it, the workload. We had a ticket system that occasionally glitched, flooding my desk with thousands of irrelevant tickets. I started noticing patterns in these glitches and flagged them for my supervisor so someone with a higher pay grade could fix the root issue. Because of this growth, other areas became overwhelmed, and I was asked to cross-train to help them out. It didn't take long before I was doing other people's jobs better than them. It was a mix of my drive to succeed and their desire to do the bare minimum. We had a point system that tracked how many tickets we closed and how long we spent on them. Hitting our weekly metrics secured a bonus of $2.50 more per hour, which pushed my pay above the $20 an hour mark. The requirement for the bonus was a minimum of 200 calls and 2,400 points a week. I absolutely destroyed those metrics. Every week, I made between 300 and 500 calls and hit nearly 7,000 points. I was satisfied. The owners knew me by name due to my performance, and I got to take biannual trips to the corporate office up north. Now, back in my youth, I got a degree in video production, which has always been my true passion. One day, my wife, who worked for the local sheriff, emailed me that there was an opening in their media department. I applied, initiated the rigorous 3-month background process, and let my current employer know they'd be getting a call. Everything went so smoothly that the sheriff himself called to tell me how excited he was to hire me. Meanwhile, back at my job, I started getting talked to by my supervisor about my numbers. He told me they were too high, and that no one else makes nearly that amount of points. I told him I was just doing my job, but he warned me changes were coming. On the exact day the sheriff called to officially offer me the position, I had a meeting with my supervisor. Before I could even tell him I was leaving, he announced a new point system. If my current week's numbers were applied to the new schedule, my 7,000 points would equal just 1,800, far below the minimum required for the bonus. When I pointed out that this was essentially punishing good performance, he just shrugged and said, "Well, that's what the company wants to do." Fortunately, my new job with the sheriff was going to start me above what I was making with the bonus anyway. Handing in my 2 weeks' notice right then, and there was a no-brainer. What cemented my decision was discovering that, due to a technicality in the payroll calendar, they were going to withhold my earned sick and vacation time. After 4 years of faithful, stellar service, they wanted to rob me of my comp time. I actually liked my supervisor. He was a good kid, much younger than my married son, and he was disabled. He had a great heart, but I hated that he had to follow procedure in punishing hard work. I told him as much and added, "For my last 2 weeks, I will do exactly what my original job description requires, and nothing more." and it was glorious. Company policy stated that if your work was done and you had nothing left to do, you could leave early using your comp time. I focused exclusively on my originally assigned area. The moment it was clear, I clocked out and applied my comp time to finish the day. I managed to use up every single minute of my time by my final day. Because I stopped helping everyone else, their work began to pile up like an avalanche. From my dashboard, I could still see the ticket queues for the areas I used to bail out, and the numbers were climbing out of control. My supervisor's boss contacted me on more than one occasion, practically begging me to help. When I pointed out that it wouldn't be fair to take points away from the other employees when I was about to leave, and that per policy, I was done with my assigned duties and free to go, he stammered. He tried to convince me to do what was good for the company. I looked at him and said, "I'm doing what is good for me. Unless you can offer me more than what the sheriff is willing to pay, I will only do what I am paid to do here until my last day." On my final day, I checked the Q1 last time before signing off forever. My area was at absolute zero. The other areas, which used to average about 10 open tickets a day, now showed hundreds of unworked cases. About 6 months after I left, an old coworker I actually liked messaged me on Facebook to wish me a Merry Christmas. He told me that, half a year later, they still hadn't found anyone who could do even half of what I used to pull off alone. But I'm incredibly happy where I am now, with plans to stay here for a very long time and eventually retire after a long, respected tenure.